Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to make this video because I think this is a very good and very fair question that definitely deserves a quality answer. And I made this video specifically about functional medicine, but you could replace functional medicine with like keto diet or vegan diet or colostrum or whatever supplement or parasite cleanse. Anything that you hear people talk about is like, well, this fixed my XYZ, or this healed this for me. Because there's so many things out there, and everything that you hear, by the time you hear it, you're only hearing it because at least a small group of people have felt like they got some beneficial outcome from doing whatever it was, right? And that's true of basically everything. Anything you want to look at, any approach, any diet, any supplement, any cleanse is going to have at least a small group of people who are going to tell you like, yeah, that was amazing. I think that really helped me. And so it's like, well, that just adds to all the confusion that's already out there about like what's real, what's not, how come it works for some people, how come it doesn't work for everyone. And that's the only reason I do the protocols that I do, is because the protocols that I use, first of all, they're not cookie cutter. They're not one size fits all. So you can take them and you can adapt them to everyone's individual situation. And they work across the board. They work in the human body. Everything else is just like, hey, try this, hope it helps. If not, okay, well, guess what? There's 2,000 other things we can try. So why don't we just get you locked into that cycle of just continually trying new things until something seems to work? It's ridiculous, but that's what it is. And honestly, that for a long time, that was the next best step after someone realized that like traditional medicine is not going to be able to help me. They have no answers. So then you go to functional medicine, right? Or maybe it's acupuncture or whatever. You take whatever path. And again, you'd hear some people say like, yeah, that really helped me. So what gives? Let's go through it. Because I did functional medicine. I have board certification as a chiropractic internist. And that's basically functional medicine. And I went on to study all that because I wanted to fix my own health and it wasn't happening. So I just kept taking courses and courses and courses and certifications and all this stuff. And I don't use any of it anymore. Okay, so why does functional medicine help some people, but not everyone? Right? Okay, so a couple things to bring up right off the bat. Pretty much every cleanse, anytime somebody starts a new approach or a new diet or a new supplement routine or cleanse or whatever, they're going to cut out the really bad food. They're going to stop eating fried food. They're going to stop eating fast food. They're going to cut out soda. They're going to cut out the real processed junk food, right? That alone is going to make everyone feel at least some better. And that, crazy as it sounds, that accounts for a lot of people saying, oh, that helped. Really what they're feeling is they're just feeling less bad because they cut out the really bad food. Okay? There may be some cases where somebody has like a very mild strain of, let's say, strep bacteria causing their issue. And when they cut out a certain food, or maybe they add in a supplement that actually has some benefit, that's enough to like move the needle. But that's not most people. And if you're watching this video, that's not you because your symptoms have continued, right? So what is really happening in these people then? So like, why are they satisfied? Like, why do they feel like it was a success? So what they're doing is now they're managing their symptoms naturally. So it's crazy. And if you would have told me this 15 years ago, I would have been like, there's no way. But functional medicine it's traditional medicine. It is the same system, framework, approach. The only thing that's different is that they try to use foods and supplements instead of drugs and surgery. But they're still just managing symptoms. And yeah, that's better. That's less bad than drugs and surgery, but it's not healing anything. And it all goes back to like, how can you actually fix something if you're not sure what caused it. And in the functional medicine world, they don't know. They're guessing. And honestly, they love guessing because guessing means more tests. And it's never ending tests, as a lot of you know. So to actually fix something, you have to know what caused it. And then we can get into a whole other, and I'll probably make a video on this too. It's like, well, you probably agree with that statement, but then your very next thought is like, the only way you can know is if you test for it. And that's a whole other faulty mindset that is just ingrained in everyone. And if you're going to get these results and you're going to actually heal and you're going to actually use food as your medicine, you're going to have to be open-minded and curious enough to be able to shift your mindset on some things. Like, I have to see it on a test to know that's what's going on. People get really defensive about that. It's wild. But so yeah, so they're just guessing. You know, they might tell you it's mold or mycotoxins or it's your microbiome or all these vague things that don't, I mean, once you ask like one or two good follow-up questions, those theories just fall apart. They crumble. They can't hold up to any amount of scrutiny. They're just, I mean, I'm not pro, you know, medical doctors in the medical system, but that's the reason that functional medicine is not taken very seriously by most doctors. It's because like they can just ask a couple questions and that whole theory just comes crumbling down. It doesn't hold up to much. And then the medical doctors who do functional medicine, they do it just because they know how bad and how limited traditional medicine is. So it doesn't really matter that the theories don't hold up. It's got to be better than pharmaceuticals. So it's this kind of no man's land of like, it's weird. But so is it a win if your symptoms decrease? And for most people, hell yeah. And so, for example, if you took somebody who had acid reflux and you're like, hey, listen to this. It's not because you have too much acid, actually. It's not because your stomach's producing too much acid. It's because your stomach's not producing enough acid. So take this betaine hydrochloric acid supplement before you eat, or apple cider vinegar, right? Whatever. And, you know, and that person does it. And then they eat something that usually would give them acid reflux, but this time it doesn't. That's the most amazing miracle in the history of the world. Like, I took proton pump inhibitors for 20 years when I could have just been taking betaine HCl or apple cider vinegar. That's crazy. And so to those people, they're going to tell everyone they know because it got rid of their symptoms. Did it heal anything? Did it fix the parietal cells? Did it make them stronger in your stomach gland so that they're now able to produce the actual true blend of hydrochloric acid, which is actually a blend of 7 different acids? No, of course not. They're just playing a trick on the body. But again, because traditional medicine couldn't help them for so long, and then they get a reduction in symptoms, they're like, this must be true. This must work for everyone, right? And then everyone else who it doesn't work for, you're kind of just shooed to the side. You're like, no, shh, be quiet over there. Don't ruin it for the rest of us. And I've been over there many times. It's like, well, what about me? Aren't I allowed to feel good too? So that's what's usually happening is people have a decrease in symptoms and they're freaking pumped, man. They're like, yes. And then they can kind of like relax. And then to them, like, I don't really have to worry about my health. Like, I'm good. Good luck to all you suckers out there who haven't figured it out yet, but I'm good. My acid reflux is gone. Okay. So that's an approach I call the whack-a-mole approach, because most functional medicine and most alternative or natural approaches are the complete opposite of holistic. They'll tell you they're holistic, and then they section off their acid reflux, and they'll do something with a supplement or a diet or whatever to manage that symptom for a time being. Guess what? That has no effect. So if that person had like skin issues, taking apple cider vinegar or betaine HCl is going to do nothing. It's going to make them worse, but it's not going to fix their skin issues. If they had brain fog, it's not going to fix that. If they have fatigue, it's not going to fix that. If they, the list goes on and on. Because again, they're just focused on trying to reduce a symptom. That's it. So what's going to happen to those people is even if their symptom does decrease for a while, guess what? Eventually, that betaine HCl or that apple cider vinegar, that positive effect is going to wear off and that symptom is going to come back. Or a totally different symptom might pop up or may never improve. So they're like, okay, well, let me go find whatever the equivalent to betaine HCl or apple cider vinegar is for my brain fog. Because there was just one simple fix, one easy fix for my acid reflux. So there must be one simple fix for my brain fog or whatever symptom they're talking about. And so they're still going around in circles like everyone else, still trying to find that magic fix. So it's a very segmented way of looking at the body. That's the reality of it. All right, some other problems with functional medicines or trendy diets or supplements or cleanses, things like that, parasite cleanses. Look, all of these things at the end of the day, they make supplements your king. You are relying on supplements to do the heavy lifting. And I have this analogy for this that I really like. I think it's good. You'll have to let me know. But the analogy is like if I wanted to have huge muscles, but I didn't know the right way to work out, or I didn't want to go to the gym. So I just sat at home and I chilled on my couch, but I still shot up steroids. How bad would you feel for me when I just didn't magically grow those muscles, right? You'd be like, of course not, man. You have to do the hard part too. You have to go to the gym. You have to learn technique. You have to learn the right way. It's going to take longer than it's not like an easy thing. But then if you do that and you bring the steroids in, then you can get like this crazy effect. That's how I think of supplements, except supplements are good for you. But you have to get the food part right. The food is the key to the results that you want. We all want the same thing. We all know that we should be healthy. We all feel kind of shackled down by our health issues. And we know somewhere in the back of our mind that that's not right. That's not how life is meant to be. I'm not supposed to be sick all the time. Yeah, you're right. But to get that, you have to do more than just take supplements and do some generic anti-inflammatory diet that focuses on clean protein and healthy fats and some vegetables. That's not it, man. That's the benefit you're getting from that is cutting out processed foods like we talked about earlier. So you have to do more. You have to get the food part right. You have to know how food plays a role with actual root causes. So what this does is it locks you into a never-ending reliance on supplements and testing, right? You have to, what happens if you stop taking your $600 of supplements a month? The whole thing comes crumbling down. That's not a good solution. What is a good solution is learning how you can eat everyday foods in a way that gives you the results that you want, and the food tastes good to you. It's easy to make. It's enjoyable. And it's not like a burden to eat this way, right? Same thing with testing. And there's a whole lot of issues with testing. But it's a lot of you will have been in that cycle where it's like you go in, you get tested for, say H. pylori. And they're like, oh my God, it's H. pylori. Here, take these antibiotics or whatever. And you do it. You're like, okay, I don't feel any better. And they go back and they test it. And it might be gone because H. pylori is not always the root cause of things. And or it might not be gone. And then they always just move you down. There are thousands of different, there's always a boogeyman that they can place the blame on. Like, oh, man, okay, well, geez, your symptoms also kind of line up with mold. So we should do this mold test. And we actually should get your home checked for mold. And, you might have to move out and do this reno and all this stuff. Or are you stressed? it could be the stress. That's the worst one. But yeah, they'll always give you a new test. Like, are you stressed? Let's do this 24-hour saliva cortisol test. That'll give us some answers. They never do. They never do, because they're playing a game that you can't win, because they'll never pin down the root causes. They'll never pin down it. Now, a lot of them are open to the idea of Epstein-Barr, but they're messing that up too, because they don't want to learn the right protocols for it, because they think, I mean, at the end of the day, I think they don't want to make the actual changes with food, and they don't think that you can. But I'll tell you, anyone can. If you want to make it happen, you'll make it happen, right? But they don't want to give up their whatever for food. And so they'll be like, oh yeah, like, yeah, celery juice. Yeah, I have heard that's good. So do celery juice. But then also do this bone broth. And also take this colostrum. And it's just this mix of just junk that it's not going to get you anywhere. But at the end of the day, it creates this sense that you're faulty, you're the problem. Because look at this other person over here. Remember this person? Remember this person who they took betaine HCl and they did apple cider vinegar and they did an anti-inflammatory diet, and they're very happy with their results. So you're faulty, right? And do you see how easy it is to end up in this spot? But that's what happens to almost everyone. So again, in that sense, it's the same as traditional medicine. Eventually, they are going to run out of answers for you. And at that point, they have to throw their hands up. Like, I'm sorry, it's probably genetic. Like, you're cursed by the gods. Like, no, of course that's not true. But they don't know what else to say. So that's where everyone ends up. And that is not the truth. All right, Mr. Smart Guy. So what is the solution? If all that stuff is what I said it is, what are you supposed to do? You have to take the time. You have to learn how to actually use food as medicine. I'm telling you, it can be done. And if I went up to 100 people on the street and I asked them, hey, do you believe food is medicine? I don't know, a crazy high amount would be like, yeah, sure. Sounds good. But to actually have that work for you, it's going to look different than what you've done in the past, right? You can't keep doing the same thing you've been doing and expect a different result. You have to learn how to really take it to the next level. You have to learn about the small handful of things that can actually be root causes. Guys, all this stuff like parasites are not a root cause of chronic illness. Mold is not a root cause of chronic illness. Genetic disease is not a root cause. There are so many distracting things out there that at the end of the day will just kind of keep you from focusing on what you need to focus on. So if you're like, oh, okay, like let me learn about Epstein-Barr or heavy metals or whatever. But then you're also like, oh, but that one also sounds good. What about this fancy new supplement that this person over here said is actually good for that? You're going to fumble. You're going to fumble the bag. Like, you're not going to get the results. Like, you have to just kind of come to terms with to get these results, you're going to have to do different things, right? And then keeping a curious and an open mind. I think that's key, because if you feel like my only solution can come from, this type of doctor, or I have to see it in black and white on a lab test, or I need it in a peer-reviewed journal. Like, I understand that desire, and that would be cool. And maybe one day that'll be the reality. But guys, if any of that was happening, you wouldn't be sick. It's not like one doctor is smart enough to figure out within their system, like, oh, this is actually what needs to be done. But I'm not going to tell any of the other doctors, and all the other doctors are too dumb to understand it, and they don't care about their patients, so they're not going to start doing this cool thing that I figured out. That's not how any of that works. There's not some secret that you're going to find in a lab test or in a peer-reviewed study. It's not out there. Guys, everyone wants to be healthy. Nobody wants to be sick. So you need to keep a curious and an open mind and just like kind of learn to examine these things in a different way and look at people who have been able to take these protocols and heal when nothing else has worked. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. That's the only reason I do this, is because I was able to do this for myself. And I started telling my patients, like, hey, do this, like this stuff's really cool. And I was like, they'll obviously figure it out on their own too, just like I did. No way. Because what I say to everyone is that the actual solution is simple. Like, you're just, at the end of the day, you're going to go to the grocery store, you're going to buy different foods, you're going to take those foods home, and you're going to eat those foods instead of what you used to eat. You're going to use your free will, right? But it's not easy taking that into the real world. It's not so easy when you have your doctor or your husband or your wife or your friends or your parents telling you, well, you can't eat like, you can't eat like that. You have all these other people who have, they have no idea what causes illness either, but they'll sure tell you what they think you should do with your food. And it's hard sometimes to not listen to them. It's hard when things do come up and you're not sure. So that's the only reason I do coaching, because I recognize that a lot of people who want the results, they don't get them because they for one reason or another, they don't have the confidence or the understanding to stay on track when the going gets tough. So if you need some help, reach out to me. That's what I'm here for. All right. Have a great day.